Hi, I'm Dani Gasparini, and welcome to this segment of Penn Voice. I am joined today by Joell Dunlap, who is the Executive Director of Square Peg Foundation. Joell, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So I think we need to jump into telling our viewers a little bit about the Square Peg Foundation and also the Square Peg Ranch.
Sure. Square Peg Ranch set out to fill the space between folks that might not fit in a traditional riding program and might not fit in a therapeutic riding program. We started in 2004, bringing with the notion that if we brought people who knew what it was like to be a square peg together with horses or rescues, that great things might happen. And 14 years later, that turns out to be true. We serve primarily autism families with a herd of 19 horses, the majority of which are ex-race horses.
And I think Square Peg Foundation has a greater meaning than just being a foundation or a ranch for horses. You have some great passion in your history that led you here today.
There's an autism dad who's an author named Paul Collins, and he wrote this great line. He said, "The problem with pounding a square peg into a round hole isn't that the pounding is such hard work, it's that in doing it you destroy the peg." And that really captures the passion. I was a very young mom with a son who was born about 9 weeks early, so he really had some challenges thrown at him, not the least of which was having a very young, overwhelmed mom. And school for me always was easy. School for him was torturous. He was a kid that had to move. He was a kid that had to learn by touching and making his own mistakes. There were a few teachers in his career who made all the difference. And some were older, some were young. But the thing that really made the difference is that these teachers loved kids. Mm-hmm. They loved the kid curiosity, they loved kid energy, they loved kid messiness. But they were the exceptions and not the rule. And I felt so alone, and I felt so unsupported with this son who had to move all the time. And it was before the internet, so the library was my best friend.
Right.
And you know, we learned to read by hanging in trees and moving and swinging. And of course, now it turns out that the brain science shows us that most of us learn optimally when we're outdoors and moving and feel supported. So that's really the passion behind Square Peg. Because I was that crazy horse-obsessed girl in school, my career led me to the racetrack. And finding homes for horses after the end of their race careers also became a passion. So in 2004, my husband and I sold our home in Palo Alto. We had a board. Only one of us knew anything about nonprofits, but luckily he knew a lot. And we just started this crazy thing called Square Peg.
And it's interesting how, you know, while your son in, you know, the square peg in a round hole system of learning really brought you to understanding that children and adults learn in such different ways. And I think the school system is better for programs like yours that actually help them understand that learning happens in different ways. Some may do very well in a quiet, more structured environment, and others need that creative side. And that's kind of what you do at mm-hmm. Square Peg with your participants and the learning between horses and animals. So now let's fast forward now and talk a little bit more about the programs that actually happen at Square Peg Ranch.
Right. We see about 50 families a week. Mm-hmm. We have some kids who their behavior issues preclude them from a school setting at all. We also provide behavioral services. So we work with a behaviorist and we work with the families to develop a plan and try and build resilient skills and try and build academic skills through being outdoors and being with these great, amazing beings. really working with people with a dysregulated sensory system. And our greatest, I think our greatest accomplishments have come with these families with kids that have behaviors that preclude them.
So how long does the child stay with you, for a session or for months and years? Is it as long as they wish to progress, or is it a certain time frame?
We really work with the families, and that's been the beauty of Square Peg. We have 2 people that work for us now that are on payroll, that started as kids in the program 10, 12 years ago and are now working into their first job placement in a supportive environment. We have kids that come 3 days a week, 4 days a week, for up to 4 or 5 hours at a time, simply because this is their
learning environment,
their optimal learning environment. And then we have families that can only come twice a month, for an hour or 2.
So I imagine every day is a new day. So you're never going to predict how your day is going to go on the ranch.
You can try.
Especially since the animals are probably all non-predictive as well.
True.
But what are some of the lessons that you've learned from your 2004 founding to today?
I think the biggest lesson we learned is, and it sounds really lofty, but it's dignity. It's when you give somebody the dignity to be who they are today, and when you lead with that, beautiful things happen, and people reveal themselves. The kid with the violent behaviors shows himself to be extremely gentle. The kid who doesn't speak at school starts reading jokes to you,
right,
and singing songs. You can't predict it, and I don't think I could, even if I tried. But this beautiful unfolding of people when you start with dignity and really recognizing the humanity,
right,
of someone who maybe
it's so amazing how you honor the families and the children that are coming through the program. So conversely, what are some of the hardest moments that, I imagine it is a tough day when you're probably resource limited, not only on the animal side, wanting to accept way more than you probably have room on the ranch for, but also to the more participants that probably want to attend your program than you have the space to do.
The only downside of my fantastic life is turning down families or putting them on a waiting list. And turning down people who are offering horses that they really care about, that they can no longer care for. That's the only 2 downsides of what I do, because resources are limited.
Right.
And it's something.
And you never know. I always believe in throwing things out in the universe. There could be a donor or benefactor out there that says, we just need to provide more land and more resources. So you're always, as a nonprofit, willing to accept donations, gifts, volunteer services. How do they contact you if they want to either be a participant or give or volunteer or just somehow figure out how they're involved?
The website is squarepegfoundation.org. The website is really written for families, so you may find it a little frustrating to go there. It's written for our community to feel like a community, but a couple of clicks away and you'll find out where the volunteer questionnaire is, and certainly the donate button.
Right, and how they can help. So we have just about a minute left. What do you want to ensure that our viewers are left with before we end our program?
Oh gosh, I think really this notion of dignity. If autism is affecting 1 in every 64 children born in the U.S. today, you probably have a neighbor or a relative or somebody in your school. That moment of kindness, that moment of, I don't really understand this, but if you let me know how I can help, I will, can really turn things around for a stressed family or a stressed person. We don't know a lot about autism, but we do know 1 in 64 people born are affected on some level. Not everybody is Rain Man, right? Not everybody has some special gift. Some families are really struggling with somebody who doesn't speak and who has behaviors where they hurt themselves. So when you see that child melting down in a restaurant, don't assume that he's just behaving badly.
Right.
He may just be completely overwhelmed, and you've got an overwhelmed family. So a moment of kindness can make all the difference in the world.
Well, Joelle, I want to send a special thanks to you and your whole team at Square Peg Foundation for not only enlightening all of us about autism, but also for the dedication and work that you do every day on behalf of our families and our community and our animals. Because I think it's one of the greatest partnerships that we could give each other is to bring animals and people together to do some great things. So I appreciate you following your passion, and please say thanks to your husband as well for following that passion. Hope all of you will jump on the website and visit Square Peg Foundation and figure out how they might be connected to you as well. And we'll see you next time on Penn Voice.